Hi, nice to see you again.
Yes, we're going to go ahead. It's going to be one more minute, then we're going to get started. Um, First, my name is Derwin Smiley. Um, I'm the CEO of the Institute for Diversity Certification. So I just want to thank our two presenters today for coming, taking time out of their busy schedule to present to us and everybody else who are on participating with the webinar. We're going to get started. I'm going to read very short bios of our presenters, and then we will turn it over to them, and they'll be off and running. Slava Jakonis is a seasoned HR professional and career coach with over 15 years of experience in nonprofit and for-profit organizations. She holds dual master's degrees in industrial psychology and human resource management and PHR and SHRM CP certification. As an immigrant to the United States, she has overcame language barriers and numerous rejections before climbing the HR ladder to senior leadership roles. Her journey motivated her to mentor fellow immigrants and to start her own consultancy, which focuses on HR consulting, career coaching, training, speaking, and network referrals services for organizations and individuals. Our next speaker is Alvaro Oleguera McBride. He is the CEO of Griffin Ritz and director of ACES, International Latin and Caribbean Board, a board certified security professional in risk management, crisis management, corporate security management, and cyber and electronic security. A key partner of the company's board of functional leaders.
I'm going to join because I need to get credit for my CD.
Did you? An enabler in developing strategy with a high and positive impact on the business results, personnel, and customer oriented, facilitating a zero incident culture, environment, and experience in leading multicultural and diverse teams with solid and proven results in multinational organizations and fast-paced environments with a highly positive impact in critical environments. I think I'm excited to listen to our presenters. Sit back and let's enjoy the ride. It's all yours.
Thank you so much. And yes, it's nice to see some familiar faces. And it's my pleasure to talk today with Alvar because Alvar is actually the perfect person to present me about this topic about duty of care strategies in organizations. Because just giving a little backstory how we met. So the first time I met Alvar, like I shared about my first speaking event, and it's not only that he joined me speaking, but he got back to me and he told me, I would like to get you a feedback for you to do even better next time. And then since then, like he supported me through multiple speaking events. And so it's really beautiful to have people like Alvar in my journey because again, it shows the duty of care and shows the impact it can make. And probably I'm not the best person today to present on this topic because I have this lingering cough and care should start from self-care, and probably I'm not modeling the best example of that. But I'll do my best, and I will start the presentation. Alvar, would you like maybe to add something, or would you like me just to go presentation?
Oh yes, I'm very honored to be on the spot with you, and thank you very much, Darwin and IDC, for this opportunity to talk about duty of care. You are more than qualified. You have the experience, so I'm really happy to be here with you.
Thank you. Yes, I think we are a good team supporting each other. And so now, like, let me just see. Yeah, like, well, when I start, like a presentation about us, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. And probably I will start why this topic even personal to me. So when I came to the United States, I came, to the land as opportunities. But as for many immigrants, suddenly we face a lot of rejections. And many days I didn't know if I ever will be able to succeed. At first, I was not getting a single interviews. And then after taking few classes at American University, I start getting interviews, but my interview experience was nothing like pleasant because when your interviews end, sometimes after the first question, you suddenly don't know if you ever will be able to compete. But that led me actually where I am today to help other people in their journeys because my hope is to help other people to make their journeys easier than mine. And yes, many times, so I think for many immigrants, we definitely felt more as a failure than success. But now, like looking backwards, I've realized how much I've learned because you learn, you become better, you become stronger through that experiences as well. And you can help other people better in the journey. But what I didn't expect it when I start mentoring others, especially after my first podcast, that I thought like I completely failed. Starting getting messages from other, please be a voice for us. And I didn't know. It made me pause and reflect. And I had a conversation with my mentor Calvin about it, and I said, how can I be a voice for others? When seeing my own recordings makes me feel very uneasy. I see how I stumble over the words. I suddenly start stuttering more just because I get aware about it. My English always gets worse, and I don't even like my own recordings. And he gave me a good insight because he told me, Solvega, if not you, think about who will. And think about the people who rely on your message today. And he gave me a very good example about Alvin Ailey dance company. And he told me that the founder, when he started his dance company, he did it because at the time nobody else did it. And he told me, think about all the dancers that never had danced if he haven't done so, or all the performances never happened if he haven't done so. And he told me that I also will be there for you. And then I realized that a lot of other immigrants, expats, we face similar challenges. We compare ourselves to others, and that comparison is not fair because we speak other languages, we work very hard, and yes, we never maybe can reach the level as native speakers do. And yes, many times it feels more comfortable for us to stay behind the scenes, stay invisible, but we cannot make the difference we want in the world if we stay invisible. And probably there are a few, three things that help me the most. One of them, like, is really embracing, thought leadership and not be afraid to sharing my own story. Secondly, finding mentors who support me in that journey, and learning about other cultures and learning about my own culture as well. And even like it feels at the beginning felt really uncomfortable sharing my own story on the social media, but it helped me to get a lot of opportunities like speaking here. And the most importantly, now it changed my attitude because I've realized that yeah, my speaking probably not for everybody, but if it is one person who benefits from that story, that all that matters. And many organizations think, yes, maybe the thought leadership is only for employees, but what I see that thought leadership is really untapped potential for a lot of organizations, not only helping the employees to be more confident themselves, not only this is a good way for your employees to learn about their colleagues and to learn about other cultures, But thought leadership increases trust both internally and externally. About almost 90% increases sales for organizations, and more employees are willing to and want to work for organizations that they feel that they can share their stories openly. And of course, mentoring makes a difference. And Alvar's picture is here, and I'm honored to present of him because yes, people who support you makes huge difference. And especially when you move abroad, navigating complexities is really difficult and challenging. And without mentors, you cannot succeed. But what I've learned that when you're mentoring others, actually you learn almost as much as you have mentors because you're also developing skills. So organizations benefit from having mentoring programs from both sides. And many times, organizations are looking for perfect candidates, but your employees are truly mostly looking for somebody who understands the experiences and they're not looking for perfection. And diversity is your organization's power. And this is Diversity Certification Institute, so I don't need to convince anybody about that. But as you can see from the data, it helps with better decisions, increases revenue, and helps with the clients. And just more like to end that, somebody who moves to a new country, you suddenly feel that you left everything you love behind. An environment that was supportive and an environment you knew how to navigate. But when you come to a new country, it's challenging and difficult. And as organizational leaders, we really need to think how to support people through those difficult journeys because as I can say from being an immigrant and working with many others, many people are even afraid for asking for help because it makes us feel more even vulnerable, and but that help is needed. So sometimes you need to think how to approach other people. And yes, my name is Solveiga, and today I am comfortable to be a voice for others, immigrants. And I hope that you'll see the value from this conversation and others of immigrant voices and perspectives in today's global economy. And of course, let's connect. And now I will stop sharing my screen, and I would like to hear from Alvar, and because you'll be sharing how the security solutions can help organizations from a duty care perspective.
Thank you, Solveig. It's great to be here, like I said before, and I want to invite you to travel in time, 2010, 3:34 in the morning. You just came back to your hotel after an amazing dinner with colleagues and other friends that you have offshore in another destination. And suddenly, the earth starts shaking, and not really soft, really, really hard. I'm talking about an 8.8 earthquake, the second strongest in Chile. And you are in the 20th floor in your hotel. You never experienced before what an earthquake is, especially with that so strong movement. What do you do? Do you have the tools to request for help? Do you have the tools in order to be sure that you can mark yourself as safe, or you need help? Something happens. We will see that there are countries that are extremely prepared for earthquakes. Japan, for example, Mexico now is better prepared than before. But Chile suffer earthquake every single day. The problem is that typically you don't feel it, but an 8.8 is strong enough. So the power ran off. Communications are impossible. Only thing that are working is text messages, but typically people don't use it because now they're used more to solutions that work with data. So Vega mentioned things that introduce us to why duty of care is important. Because if we feel safe, if we're working in an environment that allows us to be focused on what is important for the job, we're going to have our mind set to deliver what the company is expecting from us. If we are working in an environment that is not safe, we're going to be shifting and drifting in different scenarios about thinking, okay, how I can take care of me, how I can be sure that my family is okay. And during this presentation, we're going to be talking about different solutions, but more than solutions, why it's important to have a partnership between HR and corporate security. If we are working in silos, we're going to have our workforce in trouble. They're not going to feel safe. They're not going to be feeling that they can perform accordingly. We were discussing about when we were preparing this presentation that, and we're going to walk later on that part, that there are companies that they have a really fine tuning in a duty of care program that works from the very beginning when you are onboarding an expat or immigrant, you name it. Doesn't matter how you want to name it. And if you want to move an employee from from United States to another country, or from another country to United States, vice versa, right? This company works at the beginning with the job offering letter, everything that is included on the compensation and benefits package. Check, we're good with that person that is covering, for example, an executive role. But the company expend almost between 85 to 90% of the time on the resources into understand that, for example, the partner of that executive, the spouse of that executive wife or husband, are in a better position than the executive. Why is that? Because the experience tells us that if you have the special partner, wife, husband, not working or not having a safe environment or integrated with the community or feeling that is valuable not only for the family but for themselves, that executive in within 6 months probably is going to come back to the country of origin, is going to present the resignation and say, I cannot do it this anymore. So if you understand why it's so important duty of care, you will understand that it's so important for business continuity. It's so important for ensuring that the employee is productive enough according to what are the expectations, and it has a huge impact in others that are not necessarily the employee, but are the ecosystem of the executive or the employee that we are protecting. Duty of care means that we are taking care of our employees in the location where we have the operations, right? But that responsibility extends if we are, for example, sending a business trip that employee, if we are relocating that employee to a new destination within country, a domestic relocation, or offshore international relocation. So having this partnership is going to allow us to save money because we are going to do everything that we do in order to keep the employee happy and according to what the company is expecting, and we're going to be able to provide the right environment for succeed in this new role and for innovation, for creating new products. For example, I recall when I was working for Google, and this is not secret, right? You can read it on the news. You can read it on, if you Google it, you're going to find it. Google is a company that enforce an environment that allows you to make mistakes, and you can do mistakes and serious mistakes sometimes because you're testing things. You have your hypothesis. You are expecting to have this specific outcome, and you made mistakes. And what we did in the past, okay, let's do a postmortem. So let's understand what is the root cause of that mistake. Why we fail? Can I do it if I am working in an environment that doesn't allow me to feel safe? Of course not. So that is one of the most important reasons about why we need to have this partnership. I'm not an HR specialist. I'm a business and business continuity specialist. So what we need to do is provide that support to our HR partners so they can succeed in their role in providing the right environment for the employees. So that said, I don't want to extend more in the concept and part of the experience that we have. And I'm more than happy to hear you, Solveig, about any questions that you could have related to how we can integrate and create that partnership.
Sure, and that was excellent because I think the duty of care strategies is not anymore like an option, it's like really necessity, especially with the global moves, because the people rely, employees, on our help. And like now, especially during this time when everybody sometimes look at the computer screen more when they seeing their colleague, think about it like if what happens of our culture if when we stop caring for other people's success and when we stop caring for their colleague who maybe needs help next to us. And now we will talk about organizational and HR practices, but we will have a conversation all over because HR is area that everybody knows, and sometimes the best ideas come from somebody from HR. And so first we'll talk about recruiting and what maybe we need to keep in mind for having diverse workplaces. So one time, when my the principal of the school told me this one thing. Solveiga, if somebody is not comfortable with your English, it's not only about your English, but about somebody's inability to work with people who are different than them. And I always was very hard about my English, but that it made me to reflect that actually some people were comfortable hiring me almost 20 years ago, and some people will not be comfortable hiring even me now. And many organizations don't look at the data, how many who get hired, we see it, but we don't look who we don't get hired. And many people who don't get hired, the people who don't have experience in the United States or education, because it's assumed that your education is not relevant, your experience is not relevant, your language might be not good even before that interview process. So, for example, I started getting my first interviews in the States all after taking 2 classes at American University. So for me, it's still interesting, how employers think that 6 years of education at the best university in my country are less valuable than 2 classes, but that helped me to get a job. But this is just an example of like stereotypes people face. And like now recently I talked with one person, and she told me that after a few months of a job search in the United States, she felt completely psychologically crushed, and she decided that it would be easier for her to start a business in Ukraine versus continuing her job search here. So I just wanted to tell you that the people who are doing hiring decisions really think about it when they make their decisions whom to invite to interview. Think about it, it's really about the candidate's experience, or maybe you have stereotypes about other people's education or background, and think about what you could learn from working somebody different than you versus perfect. And Alvar, I'd love to hear your perspective on this.
First of all, we are all different. I think that the only thing that we share in common that we're humans, human beings. That's it. But we are all able to provide something different and something new and something valuable for the equation when we are hired. And I I recall this experience when I was with a CEO of a multinational company, and he entered in this cafeteria, and he was standing on the door, say, "We need to stop hiring ourselves." That was so powerful. Yes, the company locally was hiring from the same university with the same background, with everything that was kind of the same. So it was basically no innovation in the company. There was no, uh, 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 it was, everything was plain, basically. And when they started hiring from other backgrounds, first of all, understanding what was the right profile that they were looking for, the company and the team started rising up. Their performance increased. Everything was better place. But there, we need to be sure, first of all, that we are hiring the right profile. And typically, from the experience that we have supporting companies in that process, we identify that we make a mistake of not identifying the right profile. And that creates scenarios that are very similar to the one that you mentioned. You hire someone that don't feel safe. You hire someone that is not feeling appreciated enough when it's working, or feels that there's a huge gap to cover compared, for example, with locals. And there you have a lot of sentiments that are flourishing, right? And that's very dangerous. Not only with for example, the immigrant or the expat, but with local teams as well. Uh, I recall in New Orleans when we were discussing in with a panel that we're saying about what we have workplace violence cases, and basically the conclusion was because of the anger. People is feeling anger. How many of you are doing surveys and receiving back from the employees or from different teams that they feel upset? They are not happy. No matter what you do, nothing works to make them happy. And it is kind of a common situation everywhere in every company. I don't know what are the numbers in your company, but take a look there. Um, you're doing an outing, okay, you're doing parties, you're doing uh, activities at the end of the week, and you're not getting the right result. Well, part of the duty of care is working with leadership. If you have a strong leaders in your organization, you're going to see that your team responds better. You're going to see that your team feels that they're taking care of them and they are in a safe environment and the company care of that. So
Thank you so much. And yeah, so now like this is like really great insights. And thank you so much also bringing that security perspective as well. And now we will go to the next step of the duty care when employees start working with us. So like onboarding and what organizations need to keep in mind to make sure that employees feel not only get hired, but get cared that they will be successful. And I believe that anybody who moves from one country to another understand that it's not the same. Like if you come to work in your country, you know everything, you know the schools, neighborhoods, you know health insurance. But when you move to a new country, you have a lot of to navigate. So if your organization helps your employees to navigate and understand and spend time on their onboarding, then they are much more likely to focus on the job and to do what better. Also, what I find out, like a lot of organizations have like some programs for high level expatriates, but the same programs can be really beneficial for all international employees. Especially like, yeah, for a lot of immigrants who maybe never moved to a new country before. Maybe they are starting, and the expats maybe moved 10, 20 times before moving to this country, and they already maybe traveled a lot of times to this location. So they might actually be more comfortable and more familiar, and those programs can actually, the companies have it, we just need to expand to other staff. And other things that a lot of organizations don't think about, the programs that can help for being beneficial for expatriates families, like that maybe information about schools or neighborhoods, or even career services for their spouses can be really beneficial. And the third thing, the feedback I was getting from a lot of international organizations, that sometimes we have basic packages, but we don't think about what else could help. And then we start implementing programs even about cross-cultural understanding only when the problems arise. So we opened an office, for example, in Dubai. We didn't have any trainings for staff about cross-cultural communication in one location or another. And then suddenly we start working and there are problems after problem. And then after half year, after year, then we say, oh, actually we need something. So I think, organizations should think proactively and should talk of their staff will be helpful. And yes, finally, checking of your own employees, what we are missing, what else maybe will help them. I cannot tell how many times I worked in organizations where there is so much rush to hire somebody. You bring somebody good on board, and then we check with that employee after 2 weeks, you check after a month, and you find out we never even met the manager. So it's not only about bringing on board, but making sure that employees settle and feels welcome when they come on board. And Alvar, please.
Well, you see that we are keep talking about topics that are recurring, right? You're saying about, okay, now we're moving to onboarding. Well, why leadership is so important? If we don't take care, for example, in the recruiting part, onboarding is going to be fluffy, right? And if we move a little more to the corporate security side of the equation, risk management is key. If you are going to locate a new employee in, like you're moving that person domestically or internationally, is exactly the same, actually. And you don't understand what is the risk for that person in the destination or in the location where it's going to be performing as an employee, probably you're putting that person in a dangerous spot. Maybe for you it's not dangerous. You're used to work there, you're used to live there, you're used to interact with people there, so you don't feel unsafe. You feel that you're okay. But for that person that you're moving from California to New York, is it the same than home? If you're moving from Oregon to Dallas, is it the same than home? Okay, let's put more here to the soup, right? You mentioned about going to Middle East. One of the things that, in my experience, I had working for a multinational company is to study a lot about culture, so I can be culture aware. This culture awareness, like situational awareness when you're traveling offshore or you're traveling to another destination in order to protect yourself. One of the best key tools that you could have is situational awareness, because you can understand that, okay, I don't feel safe here because X, Y, Z, or maybe because your instinct. Situational awareness is one of the things that keep you safe. Cultural awareness, on the other hand, is the same, because it can put you in a really hard spot on the light of every problem that you could see in your destination. I remember when I was traveling to before traveling to Taiwan, I was reading a lot of blogs, trying to figure out how the local culture works. And yeah, I'm very curious. So when I arrived to the to the hotel, I went to the restaurant in order to have dinner. And one of the things that I learned before traveling there is that typically you don't pay tips. Why? Because every worker, every professional, no matter what is the position you have, feels really proud. They feel really proud about the work that they do. So they don't accept tips. So I tried to pay tips. And of course, I had a really cultural aware waitress that he said, "Thank you very much for trying to pay the tip, but we don't accept this here because we are really proud about the work that we do." I was, wow, everything that I was reading before is true. It's really matter. So if we move it to keeping a employee protected and safe, I mentioned before, we need to have risk assessment, understand what is the risk for that person, for the family of the employee, and the location where this employee is going to be living, right? Many companies provide an hotel service before they're doing the overall process to renting a home or something like that, a house or a department, right? But are we helping that employee in order to understand what is the risk for that person and the family? Okay, no, you know what? I'm looking for this neighborhood. Maybe it's really good, maybe not. So if we have that visibility, we have that the tool in place, we can provide advice for that person. Say, well, from the three options that you have, we recommend to work with these two because this other one is going to put you in trouble. Maybe we're not going to create fear, right? But we are going to provide the right advice so that person can take the right decision. When that person is traveling, and we have tools to provide support, that person is going to be traveling safely. So another tool that we should be considering to deploy if you don't have it is a buddy system, or you name it. Doesn't matter what is the name, but the concept is you put an employee that of course has a higher level of seniority or a peer that already walked through the onboarding process, already understand how the company works, and can provide those insights and help the newcomer to expedite the learning curve. Is that security? Actually, no, it's an HR solution. But actually, if you consider that within the corporate security program, you're going to work on your internal culture and your internal environment to make the employees feel safe.
And Alvar, can you also share the example that you shared with me about what organization we have a special program for expat spouses? Because I think that was also an excellent example.
Yeah. Well, it's part of the example that I mentioned at the beginning. So typically, there are some companies that expend around 85-90% of the overall relocation package or relocation program to understand that the wife or the husband are feeling happy and safe. Why is that? Because if you have a happy wife, happy husband, you're going to have an amazing employee because you hired that person. You want to relocate that person from their place of origin to a new location because it's the best employee that you have in your company for that role. So you need to keep your investment safe. And how you do it? With duty of care. How you do it? With all the solutions, with all the tools that you need to work with HR, with compensation and benefits department, as well as with corporate security. So they find the right school for kids. If they have kids, the right neighborhood, the right place according to the expectations of the special partner. Oh, you know what? That the special partner loves to attend to classes because he's continuously seeking for learning and improving as a person and as a professional. There's going to be an opportunity for a job for that person. If not, how we can help that person to, for example, start a business. So all the solutions that we can put in place for keeping that employee focusing on the job, because all the rest of the needs are covered, are a must.
Thank you so much. And first thing that we are going to discuss is about succession planning or training and development, because that is like really a key time for employees. Because yes, it's one thing, to have a good interviewing experience. It's maybe good to have like really great onboarding, but how your employees feel every single day, and how much empowered they are, like that all makes a difference. So for me, like, one of the examples, like I think one of the best examples I ever heard of the best succession planning was one organization shared to me that we were planning to grow 25%. And the leadership made the decision that we are not going to hire anybody from outside. All the promotions will happen only internally. But a person who wants to move up in that role, the new role that will be available, we cannot even apply or cannot move if we haven't trained for their job somebody else in the organization. So first we need to have trained somebody to replace their roles, somebody who's comfortable in their job, and only then we can apply and get that other job. So the faster you and the better you train somebody else, the more likely you can move up fast the corporate ladder yourself. What happened is not only the culture was very good for the culture, and but an employee's development, but organization grew 3 times, and expected only 25%, but they grew 3 times because employees felt empowered. They wanted for organization to grow because they knew that the more organization grows, the more opportunities we have. Also, what happens with a lot of organizations while employees development fail or succession planning fails, because the leaders of organizations, or the middle managers, they don't feel safe somebody replacing them, somebody who knows maybe job or can succeed better. They want to be not replaceable. But in that culture it changed, because yes, you can be in this role forever if you want, but if you want to move up, better you train somebody else. I like that example, and I wish more organizations will think about it, because yes, of course, you can hire better persons outside. There's no question about that. You always can find somebody better, but think about it like how your employees feel cared and valued and appreciated when suddenly the organization says, we are going to invest in you, and we are going to have a future leaders from our organizations, and this is how we are going to do it. And talking back, more like about the global organizations, I many times organizations have the programs for recent graduates, like internship programs for them to break into the field. But not many organizations have programs for like immigrants, refugees, for somebody who just came to the country. Maybe we have a lot of experience, but that that internship can help them to start their first job in the States. And I'm telling also, like, even from my personal experience, like I got this unpaid internship in human resources, and that helped me with my first job in the States. I worked for one organization that we had a program, mentoring program for people from outside of organization, recently arrived refugees and immigrants, and employees volunteered their time, and I was part of that program, and it was felt really good because you felt that you're making a difference. The program was very successful for several years. The people who were in that program, everybody found their first jobs or they got promoted because we have somebody who really voted for them, and we worked as a team. So we see that somebody needs help, maybe somebody else from mentors can help them. But think about your organization, like programs like that can help not only somebody who really need that help, but help your employees to feel they're doing something really meaningful, and you developing actually the skills for your employees, because we're developing mentoring skills for your employees, and they are not, and you're not even paying so much because everybody's volunteering for the time. So, and yes, I would love to hear from Alvar's ideas about succession planning.
I will rely on leadership. Everything that you mentioned is actually is how I can be a leader to others. And what a leader does is remove obstacles and help others to succeed and to grow. If you do that, I don't remember exactly the name of who said this, but it was a CEO. It is a CEO of a multinational company that said that he typically what he does is find the more intelligent people than him, right? And put the more sharp and smart people working in his team, because that helps him to innovate and to keep growing and improving, as well as the team grows really fast. Well, if you do that, you're going to be always on the spot. Sometimes maybe you're going to feel stressed because yeah, I have a younger team, or I have a more smarter team than me, and I'm going to maybe don't shine like I'm looking for. That's the opposite, because you was responsible for hiring them, you was responsible for developing them, you was responsible for making the right scenario, the right ecosystem for them to grow and to keep succeeding in the company, or maybe in other companies. So leadership is one of the key elements here in order to create the right environment for your team, and companies have the duty of care in order to be sure that they have the right leaders, and if they don't, they need to develop the right leaders or find the right leaders. Another tool that I think that is important for companies is volunteer programs. And it's side with leadership. I'm going to say why. Because I don't think that is, maybe, yeah, be a part maybe is tougher than that, but there's nothing more tough than leading or working with volunteers, because they are there because they want to. So how you can make a volunteer team to accomplish a specific task when there's no pay? Yes, you don't have enough time because there's the work, the family, my hobbies, etc. And besides that, I'm dedicating X amount of hours per week for this initiative. So if you help your team members to engage with volunteer programs, you're gonna see that there's a important and huge impact on the company culture as well.
Thank you so much. And yes, great insights as always. It's all about like leadership, and leadership who cares for employees, that can make a huge difference for everybody else, and how we feel about every single day a job and how we contribute and so on. But now I see at the time that we almost like 1 at 50. So first thing I wanted, to ask you to provide us a feedback about the session, and I will share you the slide. One thing I want to, so you can scan the code. One thing I want to show you that it says the name Solvega, because the technology is associated with my account, but please write for the feedback, say Alvar, we are leading the session together, and the feedback goes to both of us. So don't think that, the feedback, you just say Solvega, write both of our names. And if you could take a few minutes to scan it and complete those few questions, that will be really helpful. It can help us, for future opportunities leading similar events. And it will, we'll truly appreciate. We'll promise we will not send you emails about it. We just want to get your insights, and of course, if you would like to stay in touch and do something for your organizations, we'll be more than happy. But for now, we'll really appreciate you just taking a few minutes. And also, if any of you in the meantime have maybe how it resonated the session, or maybe you have some questions that we could answer, now it's the time you can just unmute, because it's just few of us, and ask that question, and we'll try to answer it.
Yeah, and thank you, Francine, for all your comments on the chat. I can see that the first comment was HR needs to assign focal points post onboarding. Yes, absolutely. No, it's not it is not a process that ends with the onboarding. And yeah, you're good to go. So like we were discussing during this session, provide the providing a safe environment is the key factor in order to have a successful team, a successful company, a successful employee. That absolutely for sure is something that you cannot stop after the onboarding. And having a partnership, if you don't have a, a corporate security program in your company, ask for help. Just go outside. Well, you can contact Solveig, you can contact me, and we can see how we can support you. Francine, you raise your hand.
Okay, it's Francine.
Oh, sorry. Thank you
Yes.
very much for the correction, Francine.
That's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to expound on the points. Good afternoon, everybody. On the points. So just to give my own experience, I worked in Yemen for 2.5 years. I'm Jamaican by birth and citizenship. I am a newly minted permanent resident in the United States. And of course, there are some salient points that you mentioned, Alvar. And I think HR needs to be a little more connected with security, because not everybody in HR understands the discipline of security, the security discipline in itself. So you find that when you go to these remote locations, which in the United Nations, which I worked as a consultant, they refer to it as a non-family duty station, and you have family duty stations. So you have support programs for spouses and kids in family duty stations, but it gets tricky in non-family duty stations such as Yemen, where you have either post-conflict, in conflict, a post-conflict or in conflict zone. So for my experience, I was in an in conflict zone. So basically what we had a HR component that's embedded within the office in the hotel where we stayed, and you have a security focal point. So that security focal point would be in touch with you with your morning briefings, and also to ensure that bulletins are sent out to you, timely bulletins orally, etc., to prepare you for any eventualities, right? But also, as an individual, you can't always rely just on HR and security. You yourself, as a security professional or any other professional, has to go inside there, and you mentioned that having local knowledge, right? Prior to going to Yemen, what you have to do, or any other duty station which is unfamiliar to you, is to do your own research prior to entering. Know their customs, know their culture, understand the do's and don'ts, follow the security bulletins that are happening, watch the news yourselves. And also, you have to develop your own defense mechanism or your survival instinct, then, you know. So one of the things I used my personality because I'm a female in a male dominated environment. Many of the things do not go inside those zones with preconceived notions about the Muslim religion because you may be in for a surprise. Because as a female there, I was treated with royalty. I was treated like royalty. And having gone there, prior to going there, people were like, oh, those people don't like women, etc. So you have to be careful. And then none of that happened. You know, I was treated with respect. I was treated like royalty, and I had Muslim men in my all my training sessions are like the ratio is like 99.99% to like 0.1 in terms of female. So for every male dominated session, I may have one female. All right. So some of those things. Now, HR, how HR role in terms of recruiting, especially for security positions, we have to now broaden that. How can we look at that to make it better? Because not everybody in HR knows what they're recruiting for. So you find that most times recruiting are done for security. It's mainly the security manager or the corporate security executive that's doing the recruiting. And HR is just inside there as a shoulder to lean on, really, to deal with the administrative portions. So I am hoping that we could do a part 2 to this session so we could delve a little deeper into the importance of HR now attending security conferences to understand the security product a little better, because corporate security is just one component of security. And one of the things the United Nations does, even though it's a different setup, they have a large department that has different trained professionals. You will find that when you are being recruited for especially like zones in different UN agencies, you find that it's a program manager who is more involved in the recruiting. And then for Yemen, you have an HR agency that is operated by persons who were formerly UN or formerly multinational agencies who understand those environments. So they know what to look for and who to look for and the best fit for the job. So this discussion, while it's really, really good, I think we need to do a part 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. I absolutely agree with you, Sylvia. We should do a
Yeah.
partnership there and jump in a part 2 session. Um, the key, I think that the most difficult or the most challenging thing is to, because the UN, of course, we know that has a lot of resources and a lot of experience in very dangerous areas. How we can identify what are the, we will say the MVP in terms of having a product, right? But it's the minimum viable product for keeping our employees safe if
Yeah.
our company don't have a large team or large resources in order to keep their employees safe. And you mentioned something that is absolutely paramount. Be aware. It's
Yeah.
your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, but when we're sending someone offshore, or when we're sending a travel or business travel, or relocating someone domestically, the company has a responsibility, and that's the duty of care of be sure that it covers at least the MVP of the security, safe environment of the employee.
Yes.
So thank you
And
very
most
much
of,
for.
yes, and most of and just another point to mention, even though you have onboarding, even though you have the focal points for HR, even though you have that focal point for security, hey, when you're traveling in the dead of night from Houston to Doha, Doha to Egypt, Egypt to Yemen, they don't know that portion. So you have to employ your own survival skills to get through that whole immigration process, going through Jordan, missing your flight because of time zone differences, so many different things. So you can't just rely on that onboarding process or that focal point, because in the dead of the night when they are sleeping, you have to manage on your own. And any eventualities flying through those zones or things that may come up before the start of the workday, you as the traveler, you have to manage that. And then you have to call the husband on the phone or the child on the phone to say, hey, this is what is happening, etc., and bounce from that flight. So you have to
Yeah.
have your own survival instinct. So when you're recruiting, you're not just recruiting for the competencies or for the job, but also you have to look at the individual themselves. And I do hope that, we can dovetail into speak about the immigrant. How does the immigrant fit into this? Because sometimes we look for people in organizations just because they have a fancy resume and they have 20 something years of security experience. But you're sending them to Yemen to work and they crumble. How do we address that from an HR perspective in terms of what we look for? Are we just looking for skill sets, or are we looking for resilience of an individual? So then we go into diversity, then we go into equity, because I have males who told me that I would never go to Yemen to work. Are you crazy?
Francine, I think we are running a little over time. So I want to be cautious about it because, and hopefully we'll have another meeting to continue. But yeah, thank you so much for your insights. But I want to be understanding, and respectful for everybody's time. And yes, I would like to see, like, maybe Leah, would you like to close something and maybe give some insights yourself?
Yes, I'd like to. I apologize for the baby in the background,
Oh,
No,
grandparents,
you're
but
good.
she is definitely having a time here. But certainly, I want to thank our two presenters. I learned so much in today's session, and just in terms of emergency preparedness and making it so that we, plan for that properly, even the recruiting piece and every single aspect that you all talked about. That is ultimately so important. And Francine, I want to thank you for adding your input at the end. Certainly, it has been incredibly valuable. This entire session was amazing. So I think even as DEI leaders are looking to do more work overseas and abroad, it's in HR is looking to play more of an integral role abroad. We want to ensure that we learn as much as we can, and listening to experts like you just made it that much easier. So thank you so much. And I appreciate everyone. I appreciate everyone that is participating today, and hope you all enjoyed it and have a great day.
thank you so much for opportunity, and thank you, Alvar, for being here. It was incredible to present of you.
Thank
Thank you. It
you.
was an honor.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, everyone.